Welcome to From Combat Boots to Business Suits, the podcast brought to you by the Officers Association Scotland. Today I am joined by the wonderful Mr. Matthew Wardner. Hello Matthew, welcome to the show.
Hello Jane, great to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
It was a real pleasure. It was at one of our Insight nights that I heard you speaking for the first time, and I instantly turned to my colleague Michelle and I went, I need to have him on the podcast.
It's very kind of you to say that, and if I can offer some thoughts and that is helpful to your listeners, then I'm absolutely delighted to be involved. I know what great work you do, so whatever we can share over the next 30 minutes, delighted to be involved.
Fantastic. So I always like to start the show with a little bit of an overview of why you joined the military, your military career, that kind of up to that point where you got to your resettlement. So just
Sure.
an overview of your time in service.
Yeah, sure. I was very fortunate to be what they call an army scholar. So at school, aged 15, I knew that that's what I wanted to do. So went off and did the process that you go through to become an army scholar, which is quite scary now when I look back and think, I committed to do that when I was 15. Left school at 18, straight into Sandhurst, back in the days when you turn up with a suitcase and you hope for the best.
Yeah.
I had no military background, no father or anything that was in the forces. Okay. It was just something I always wanted to do. I joined my local county infantry regiment, which was the Worcestershire and Sherwood Foresters Regiment that went on 20 years later to become the Mercian Regiment. For those that are sort of the modern generation, if you like, listening to this, they go, who are the Worcestershire and Sherwood Foresters? But they were my county regiment coming from Worcester. Absolutely loved my time. But when you're a platoon commander at the age of 18, because back when I went through Sandhurst, it was only 2 terms long. So I turned up at 18 and 3 months, was commissioned roughly this time of year, so still not 3 months away from my 19th birthday. And that concept of, you're a platoon commander responsible for 25 or so infantry soldiers. Clearly, in hindsight, again, was I really responsible? I had a very, very capable platoon sergeant that probably did 90% of the work and allowed me to go and do sport and turn up and write the training program that he would check. But no, so it started, first posting was in Warminster with the demonstration battalion, as it was called. And then over the next 27 years did perhaps the typical infantry officer thing. For a long time you stay at regimental duty, then a training job at the junior leaders battalion down in Folkestone, training 16, 17-year-olds, back to the battalion, back to a SO3 job, Staff Officer Grade 3 as a captain in Northern Ireland in the days when Northern Ireland was still quite busy. So in 3 Infantry Brigade, Portadown, which includes places that people will be familiar with, the likes of South Armagh. Quite a busy time in the operations wing of that, and the Drumcree riots that people might remember from the late 90s was all going on at the time. Selected to go to Staff College, 2 years at Staff College. Out of Staff College into another staff job, this time in Headquarters Land on the G3 Commitments Desk, which at the time included operations going on in Kosovo, and whilst we were there was then the start of Gulf War II and all the planning that went on for that, which was an interesting time. Back to regimental duty as company command. And my last job was commanding Aberdeen University Officer Training Corps, up in Aberdeen, as the name suggests, but an absolutely fantastic job of everything up in that corner of Scotland. You're senior military representative, so involved in all the community activities and a hugely passionate military world around the Aberdeen, the Gordon Highlanders home. Very fortunate my wife's grandfather was a Gordon Highlander captured in Singapore, so I was sort of treated as an honorary Gordon Highlander, allowed to wear the tartan, etc. So a great job. And at that point, when all my peers are commanding battalions on operations in Afghanistan, operations in Iraq, you sort of look yourself in the mirror and go, yeah, okay, I'm having a fantastic time, but this is probably my last job of any form of command, and it's going to be a desk job from here on in.
Yeah.
And that just struck me as the time to go, do you know what else is there that's out there? So it's from Aberdeen that I resigned, and
Yep.
the rest, as they say, is history. But probably what you're going to ask me questions about for the rest of the session.
Absolutely. But before we move on, how long were you? How many years of service did you?
So that was just over 27 years.
Okay. Okay.
So from 1984, September 84, I turned up at first day at Sandhurst, and last paid day was early 2012.
Yeah.
Which I think, someone's frantically counting on their fingers. It comes up to approximately 27 years.
I'm glad you did that math. I was sitting going,
yeah, if you say so. Yeah.
If you say so.
And it's that thing that so many careers now are built in building blocks of 2 years here, 2 years there, and when you sort of look at it and go, 27 years, that sounds... But everyone who's military knows that actually it is 2-year building blocks, but it's all done under the umbrella of the army. Mm-hmm. And if you're a financial services, you go, I've 27 years in financial services, but it's 7 or 8 different companies. It's the same concept. It's 7 or 8 different roles and environments that you've worked in, but you keep coming back to the mothership of your regimental duty. And that's the beauty of military life, is you meet people when you're 18 and you're still working together when you're in your 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
And you went to their wedding, you know their children, and it's the glue that holds it all together, that perhaps in your second career is so much more difficult to find. Yes, you sort of, the structure looks familiar, but the people aren't. Yeah, in the nicest possible way.
No,
I
know
the people are lovely,
absolutely.
but you don't get to know them. And a friend of mine described it as, it's when you're in tough situations, that strength through gloom, as he described. Of if you've been digging a trench on Salisbury Plain with someone, by the time you've completed the trench, not only have you got blistered hands, but you know all about them.
Yeah,
because you've been through that, and you go 30 years later, you're still able to go, do you remember when? And it scarred you, but in a bonding sort of way. And
Absolutely.
You don't have that in business in quite the same way. That strength through gloom is quite rare.
It's interesting when you talk about it. I can see there's a real spark going off, and you're very animated, and it's still. How long have you been out actually? But let's just flip to the end for just a second.
That's the scary bit. It's now 14 years, so it's whatever, 50% of my military time, and it's gone in a blink of an eye. And do I miss being in the army? I miss so much of parts of it.
Yes.
But equally, if I had still been serving, I wouldn't have been able to do the things I've done. My family wouldn't have been able to do the things that they've done with a more static base, and so on. So it is that, I had a great time. Very fortunate with the friends and the places that I went to and all the rest of it. But you reach that point that you go, if I'm going to go and scratch that other itch, then
the time is now.
There is a time that all of us probably go, ooh, I've loved it, but... And I've got friends that have done the full through to 55, and they then struggle to be able to make that leap because they're that bit older, and employers look and go,
Yep.
Can I be bothered to retrain you? At what point are we going to get our return on our investment? Whereas mid-40s, which was, for me, I was 45 when I left, that's quite a good age to go, right, what next? And your officers are fortunate they can stay till 55, so they have that, in inverted commas, problem.
Yes.
Some people say that's a luxury.
Yes, yeah.
Whereas a soldier's career tends to be around the sort of 22, 24-year bit. If they join at 18, well, then you're in your early 40s. I think that's quite a good time to be...
Yes.
If you're not going to stay forever, go early enough that you can create that second career.
And do you think that's because you have more of a stronger sense of who you are as a person, and therefore it might be easier to make the decisions of what would I like to do next? Or how was that for you?
Because I knew that I loved what I did, and I was looking around, and Aberdeen is such a fantastic city, and at the time the oil price, we talk about oil prices now, and this was recorded in, where are we, middle of April 2026, and the whole Iran war thing is going on, and oil price is somewhere around $90 to $110 a barrel, dependent on what day of the week it is. It fluctuates at the moment. Back when I left, it was $120 a barrel. In Aberdeen, that meant people were recruiting, people were driving forward to get maximum economic return from the North Sea. So jobs are plenty. And people were saying, So, right, you're currently scheduled to go to Norfolk, Virginia in a couple of months' time, but they haven't got a posting order for you, so you can't get a quarter, so you can't plan your wife, dog, child, all the rest of it, your life.
Yes.
But you're still going to drop everything and go. And we had a cocktail party, as officer training corps tend to do.
Yes.
And the first year, the great and the good came, and they drank our drink, they ate our food, they listened to the pipe band, but it made no difference to engagement because the chain gang are already hugely supportive. We're very lucky in that regard. Second year, we invited business. And it was through that sort of moment of, and one of the veterans from Aberdeen World said, let me show you the proper Aberdeen. I know Aberdeen. I've been here 2 years. What do you mean? And you go, no. And some little back street, there's a company that turns over a couple of $1 billion a year worth. And you go, that's the real heart of Aberdeen. And so I was hugely lucky that I left. As you do, you then network to bump into a couple of people, and then I was offered a job over lunch in a hotel in Aberdeen with a company I'd never even heard of.
Fantastic.
And it was a friend that said, I think you should meet these people. They might be of use. And didn't even have an interview. So I didn't have an interview to get into the army.
Yes.
Because I was an army scholar, so I didn't need to. And I didn't have an interview for my civvy job. And then after that, I set up my own company. So I've never...
Yeah.
This is probably the most formal interview I've ever had, so it's
well,
quite scary.
I
hope
won't
I'm doing
get
okay,
out.
Mom.
You're doing very fine, but we won't get your CV out and
Okay.
appraise it. I'll leave that for Joe on another day and another time. So this is already it's shaping out. It's a fascinating story because I've got such a picture of the young 18-year-old, fresh graduate in charge of all of these people and trying to get things right. And then I'm seeing you 27 years later, and with a little bit of a spark as well to go, just maybe this is the right time. And of course, spoiler alert, as we have mentioned, you are now a business owner yourself. So I get the impression, even if it wasn't conscious, maybe it was conscious, that there's always been that drive and perhaps a little bit of self-belief there, that when you decided to leave, there must have been a part of you that backed yourself enough to go, I will get a job.
Yeah, absolutely right. And whether it was conscious all the time, I always wanted to be an army officer. And up until that moment, you go, actually, I'm not sure I do.
Yeah.
Your 100% of your being is into being in the army. It's not a job you can do half-hearted. You're either in or you're not in.
Yeah.
And so I think that moment of when I went, oh, actually, I'm not sure, it had to be a reasonably quick decision of, well, I'm not going to be any more sure when I'm in Norfolk, Virginia, doing a staff job that is, etc. So making that quick decision, and as many service people will know, it should be a well thought out, clearly well planned, months in advance. Share that discussion with your family because it's an important decision. I decided and resigned within a week. And because of the way that handovers were working, I was effectively unemployed within about 6 weeks, twiddling my thumbs. And within 8 weeks, I'd been offered a job and was started work again. So and my wife said, all right, so what are we actually going to do to pay the mortgage and live? Because you've just given up with minimal. If I'm now looking back, and if the boot was on the other foot, I'd be going, well, perhaps we should have discussed this a bit more and developed a bit of a plan. So any of your listeners that are listening to this, please do not follow my example. It's probably the worst case that you could possibly do. I didn't do career transition partnerships. I didn't come to you for CV writing skills. I did come to OA Scotland generally for advice on, do you know anyone that might want a mid-40s lieutenant colonel that can march straight lines, can shoot straight, can make themselves look like a tree, but that's about it. So it's easy to be self-deprecating, but you've got to believe in yourself. And you have to, as an army officer, any person in the army, if you're going to leave a patrol base and you're going to tell people, I'm going to go on patrol and we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to complete our tasks, and we're all going to come back and safe. You can't do that unless you don't back yourself.
Yes.
So all the way through every service person's career, they've been taught to do the right preparation so that when you start out on that journey, you are going to finish it and you're going to be successful. Well, business is just exactly the same. And there are so many similarities that you sort of, we talk about sales.
Yeah.
The average armed forces person would go, I'm not in sales, I've never sold anything. It's it's almost as though it is the worst thing in the world to be tarred with talking to people. So, and yet every time you give a set of orders as an army person, that is a sales pitch. I am pitching to you, my colleagues, my team, that we are going to walk out of that door, we're going to do this, and I'm going to bring you all back. It's the biggest pitch in the world.
It's the highest stakes sales you can make,
And you want your team, yes, the Manual of Military Law does help you that you could order people to do that.
Yes. It's better if they go with you willingly.
Want them to go, yes, boss, I've got that. What can we do to help? How can we make that mission better? And so it is a sales pitch, and you're laying out your sales pitch in a ground situation, mission execution sort of norm that the military uses, the orders process. Well, a sales pitch has a hook, has a problem, has a solution, and then an ask at the end that says, this is what we're going to do, and I'm asking you for £50,000 to invest in my business type thing. It's exactly the same, but different. If that doesn't sound too stupid.
No, it makes perfect sense. Actually, on that point that you've made, because not a lot of our clients, as you've kind of highlighted, will turn around and say to us, I would love to be in sales. Perhaps thinking that, I would need to do a sales course and all the rest of it. I'm just thinking about the different personality types that we come across with. Obviously, all of your officers have those basic transferable skills. As you say, they have led people. They have put that sense of belief into giving orders and all the rest of it. What would you say to the people who are perhaps, I think there's a impression of salespeople that they're all bombastic, big personalities, if you like. But I'm intrigued by what you were saying, is that actually everyone has been an officer has the transferable skills there to be a good salesperson because they've already done it. Do you think someone who's a little bit more on the introverted side, a little bit quieter, can still be a good salesperson in the right environment?
In the right environment. It's a great caveat there that you
said.
And I think even when you give a set of orders, some set of orders, and we'll appreciate that already it's some time ago since I've given a set of orders.
Sure.
But there are some people that the listening audience for a set of orders, hanging on their every word, and it could be an impossible mission, and people still go, "Yeah, I'm with you," because they are just naturally gifted at the sales pitch, if you like. They're getting it across. Other people try and play to their strengths of doing the detail and making sure that every single possible issue is thought through, and they do it that way. You just have to find your own style.
Yeah.
But I was saying that when I left the army, I'd realised that yes, I could shoot straight, I could make myself look like a tree, but what else could I do? So my wife had been already enrolled on the Robert Gordon University MBA program. She was a couple of years ahead of me, but she said, "Look, this is a great program. If you're going to try and be credible in the business world, get on the MBA program." And so completed the paperwork, joined the course, and then you start a course like that. You end up sitting around in a circle for the first couple of sessions, introducing yourself and explaining your background.
Yeah.
And as we went round the room, I suddenly realised that the army had invested a massive amount in my training. Yeah. And most civilians, you are recruited for the job for which they are advertising.
Yes.
They don't recruit you and then say, okay, we'll now put you on a 2-year course, because that's a waste of money. If they wanted someone with those skills, they'd recruit someone with those skills.
Yes.
So you might get a couple of days a year of training. And I tallied up, by the time you had Sandhurst, Platoon Commander's Battle Course, Special Weapons Courses, Regimental Signal Officer Course, 2 years at Staff College, Junior Division of Staff College, blah, blah. It was something like, on average over the 27 years, it was a day a week, every week, for 27 years.
That's insane.
I have been on a paid, dedicated course. And that's not an exercise or ad hoc training. That is someone that is course joining instructions, go and attend a set course. no business is ever going to do that. So when we sat round and we're going around, oh, well, I've done this and I've done this, I sort of went, well, yeah, okay, I've done a bit of operations, I've done a bit of leadership, I've done a bit of health and safety, I've done a bit of accounts. Even if it was only the service fund accounts course, it's still the amount of money that is going in, is going out has to equal the amount of money coming in. Otherwise we're making a loss. It's and there are so many skills that you just don't even think about. Part of the job that I went into, I had to go and do the Civil Aviation Authority radio user 2-day course.
Wow.
I'd been in the army for 27 years. Yeah. I'd been the regimental signals officer. But they still, no, sir, you don't have a tick in that box. We can't prove that you're good at voice procedure. Okay. You want to spend your money to send me on a course that I probably know more than the instructor. And that's not me being big-headed.
No, sure.
Most armed forces people would know more than the instructor because you do it every day from the start of training. And it was that, okay. My point being that anyone who's listening to this, do not underestimate those skills that you've got. And if you get the chance to have the interview, the skill is making it credible and realistic for the person who's asking the questions. Because if I read an interview once that said, a CV that said I was chief executive of the army. And I thought, that's quite punchy. I didn't realise you were the chief of the general staff. No, they were a subunit commander.
Yeah.
But they'd been so excited, shall we be kind?
Sure.
In writing their CV. To me, just be honest, but get the message across of why do those skills that you've picked up along the way add value to the employer so that they go, you know what, I want you in my team.
So what I want to do is what you've said there is, I think, a fantastic point, which is the amount of investment that, in your case, the Army puts into their individuals by comparison to civilian candidates, what they will have had from their employers throughout their working life. There's no comparison to the amount of investment and training that you have received as a service leaver going into the civilian job market. You then gave the example, of course, of the overexcited service leaver that's kind of put, I was chief executive of the army, and gone a little bit too much the other way. Practically, what is the best way? And I suppose it comes down to sales. So I'm gonna use I'm gonna phrase it this way: how can a service leaver accurately sell the skills that they have had great training for and have leaving the army, that they might not have what a civilian would see as formal qualifications for, that can be ticked on a box, but still make clear, I can do this?
It's one of the biggest questions, I'm sure, that you as an organisation...
It is. I was hoping you were going to have a magic answer.
And sadly, there is no magic answer, because I use an example. We haven't got onto this bit yet, but I run a consultancy company called Inverroy Crisis Management.
Yes.
We've just in the process of recruiting for a sales executive, one sales executive based anywhere in the UK. We have had over 650 applicants.
Wow.
So my team have diligently gone through them all, because I know how disheartening it is to not get a response.
Yep.
So we've tried to go back to 650 people to say, thank you, but not on this occasion. And we're now down to 3 for interviews, which are going to be next week. But if you're up against 650 people, how do you get your message across that I am worth an interview or worth a more detailed read? Because by the time you've gone through the first paragraph, you probably are going, nope. Now I want to read a little bit further. And I think it was one of your sessions that one of the successful candidates that you'd had said that his advice was the first third of the top page has to excite the reader to want them to read further. So that is not the time to say, I commanded a squadron or whatever. But equally, it's not the time to be too vague.
Sure.
Because there's so much, and we see it now, AI generated, not wanting to swear too much, but let's say tosh. Yeah. In a CV that you go, it's just AI generated, and they're all the same.
Yeah, they are.
And so, how do you stand out from the crowd? How do you make yours the one that I'm actually going to bother to read and reflect on? And we went from 650 down to 20, down to 12, down to 3, in that sort of initial sift and subsequent sifts, and 12 got phone calls to check. When you said that you did this, did you actually do it? Can you show me your certificate? Because there's so much fabrication opportunity now with AI and other techniques that you just make it up. So too much military jargon can confuse the layperson. So telling them, bombardier, brigadier, what's the difference? Most people don't know.
Sure.
So then you might say, well, let's include the scale of how many people were in your department. What did your department do? So Sandhurst isn't the officer training school; it's one of the foremost government training establishments, or leadership establishment. Okay, right. But finding the right combination of words that are going to resonate with the person who you're hoping is going to read it.
Yes.
And so important to match what you're trying to say to the advert, because again, ours was a sales executive role in the UK. Well, okay, if you're not in the UK, why are you sending me your CV? Because it was very clear it had to be UK based. So it's those little things that you're not helping yourself if you're not answering the exam question, but doing it in a way that the examiner understands what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
But there is no easy answer. Otherwise,
no, there's not.
Your colleagues that lead on that CV writing skills would be out of a job. Or wouldn't need to run the course, shall we say?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I would highly recommend that anyone who is listening or watching that hasn't done the CV and interview workshop with Joe and Michelle, sign up. It's invaluable.
And for them, it's probably the first time that anyone has bothered to help them do that, because they will have joined the armed forces in their teens.
Yes.
And at the best one in the world, your CV as a 16, 17, 18-year-old is pretty thin.
Yeah.
And whereas now you've got so much that you can tell, it's how do I get that down to two sides and make it interesting?
Yeah.
So it's not an easy thing to do.
It's not, and it is a difficult market out there, because I would say that the process that you're going through at Inverroy, from what you've just told me, is a very human process, and a lot of companies, which we don't need to get into the ins and outs of it, but a lot of the hiring process now is also AI reliant, and so I think it's perhaps also about doing good research on the actual company themselves and the processes perhaps that they're going through.
When I left, when I left the military, very fortunate, joined a company called Altor Risk Group, that they provided support to the oil and gas industry, predominantly in the North Sea, which, let me get this right, they have an ops room that coordinates helicopters going to rescue people in challenging situations in remote locations, i.e. in the North Sea, doing medical evacuations and the like. And it couldn't have been closer to what the average army person has been doing for the last 10 years at that time in Iraq and Afghanistan. It was a complete match made in heaven for me. And it was therefore a very easy transition. And I didn't even know that job existed when I resigned. So it was perfect. Started as effectively the T-boy, because they didn't really know what to do with an army officer. They'd never seen one before. Sort of patted on the head and told to go and put the kettle on. Within 18 months, I was the business unit leader covering Europe, the Americas, and the whole of the UK. Turned a small loss into a healthy profit. But the business was then bought, and the head office was going to be moving to Dubai. I didn't want to move to Dubai, and I thought, actually, there might be something else. That something else put my heart and soul into working for one of the operators, and this is now 2014. They had oil fields in Kurdistan, northern Iraq, just at the time that ISIS was attacking, so a crisis manager at that stage was quite useful for planning evacuations. So did that for 6 months. But because of challenges in northern Iraq at that time, oil price had now collapsed. Baghdad wasn't paying Kurdistan's bills. ISIS were close, so they were closing down wells. They effectively shut down operations and said, terribly sorry, but we're going to have to let you go. But we do want to have you as a consultancy service. Would you mind setting up as a consultant so that we can bring you in on an ad hoc basis?
Well, I mean, that's something, isn't it?
It was such an easy launch that, but equally, it's quite a daunting thing to say, right, I've gone from well-paid military job with all the benefits at the time, a daughter in boarding school, continuity of education allowance, all of those nice things to have.
Sure.
To going to work for a company starting at the bottom, so I took a 50% pay cut when I left, plus now I'm paying the boarding school allowance, plus I'm paying rent on the house. The uncertainty of, well, I'm the new boy, is this going to work? So as you said, back yourself.
Yes.
And it sort of did. And I'm now starting all over again with, turning around over the breakfast cereals to my wife to say, terribly sorry, I've never done this before, but I've just been made redundant. And I haven't been in long enough to get a nice, healthy payout.
Sure.
But they've said, can you set up your own company and become a consultant? And wife, at the time, she was working as the regional manager for Help for Heroes, covering Scotland and Northern Ireland.
Nice,
Again,
lovely.
a charity role, so not hugely well paid, but absolutely loved it. And we're looking at each other going, right, how's that going to work then? So it becomes an interesting journey. 2015, we set up, March 2015, with me, a laptop, and one client that had already said it wasn't enough for full-time work, but we might have something occasionally that we quite like what you do and the way that you do it, but we might not. Daunting, to say the least.
Very daunting. And your wife's sitting there going, we are here again.
Absolutely.
We've done it
and
again.
It's no secret. We ended up, in order to make sure that we could continue with what we were doing and to back the business, we sold our house. Mm-hmm. We moved into rented accommodation. For probably 3 or 4 years, I paid myself £1,000 a month. That was it. So I'd gone from, and it's on public record, Lieutenant Colonel in 2011, 2012 was on something like 70,000 to 12,000.
Goodness.
And if I didn't earn any money, I didn't get paid. And there were months that I didn't get my £1,000, because we haven't got any money. So it really, really focuses your mind on, if this is going to work, I need to roll my sleeves up and get out there, demonstrate that actually I am moderately competent at what I'm talking about. That land and expand is the phrase we use. Give me a piece of work. Let me demonstrate that I will absolutely ace it for you. I will do it on time, on budget, delight you, your team, so that the feedback forms, they come back and say, please invite Matthew back because he was brilliant. And now we've got a client base, and then it starts to grow and grow. But it doesn't happen by chance. So anyone that looks and goes, oh, yeah, Matthew's doing all right for himself, or anyone else in that, trust me, there were 4 or 5 years of beans on toast. And if we were lucky, there might be cheese on our beans on toast.
Yes, absolutely.
And if it hadn't been for my wife still working, and it hadn't been her willingness to do that, and yes, supported by an army pension, we wouldn't have been able to do any of that, and the business might have lasted perhaps 6 months. So it's tough.
There are so many things that I want to pick out of what you've said, because it covers quite a few things that we talk about at our events. Setting up your own business and being a business owner, and the challenges that come with that, some of which you've already touched on, which is, taking the low paycheck, make everything's going back into the business, the taking of the risk in and of itself. So there's all of that piece. There's also getting into what you actually do for a living, which is your, in my head, I always call it just crisis management, but how would you exactly describe the industry that you're in?
The industry's evolved a little bit since we first started, but it's now business resilience.
Business resilience.
So helping a business to be ready to respond and recover to any disruptive event.
Yeah.
And you can imagine, we see it every day on the news: fire, flood, cyber attack. What are you going to do when that happens? Do you have a plan? Because every moment you don't, you're putting your business at risk, but also your employees. They want to know that if something bad happens, we've got this covered.
Yeah.
And we're going to implement a plan that means not only are we going to save lives, put out fires, etc., but we are going to be back up and running within a couple of days, because if we're not, our competitors will come in there, they'll steal our clients, and suddenly we'll end up in administration and so on. And there's so many examples that you see on the news every day. And household brands that surely they must have a cunning plan, but you suddenly go, oh, actually, and I was reading today that it passed me by completely, but the shoe shop brand Russell and Bromley,
Yes,
gone into
they've
administration.
gone into
so
yes.
you go, how
That's
is
right.
that possible for such a quality product and well-established brand to go into administration? And I'm sure there's a whole PhD probably on that type of thing. But that's where we come in, is to say, have you done your horizon scanning to spot things before they occur? And as we said earlier on, at the moment, the whole oil price challenges, fuel shortages, for example. We're already talking about, is there going to be enough jet fuel for holidays?
Yeah.
Well, before we get to jet fuel for holidays, there will be, everyone work from home again because people can't afford to come in, and we're at £2 a litre. Well, I would predict within a couple of months, if this carries on, we'll be at £4-6 a litre, because it's a simple supply and demand economics thing. If there is no fuel, people will be forced to pay what they're forced to pay. And
so let's talk about this. Let's go down this route, actually, because of course we're talking about the time of recording, which is April 2026. We did, when I first heard you speak, that we did a security risk and resilience inside event, and you were talking all about Inverroy and the work that you do and why military people are a good fit for business resilience. Let's get into that, because for any service leaver or veteran actually who's maybe sitting in a job going, this isn't for me, I've even been out in a couple of years and you know what, I'd like a career change. Why is who is business resilience good for within because not, as we say, not all service leavers are exactly the same, not all of them temperamentally are the same. So what kind of service leaver is going to do well in the business resilience sphere? And this almost sounds like a silly question to ask. I'm going to say, what is interesting about it? But I mean, everything that you've just described, it seems like a fascinating sector to work in. And now in particular as well, it comes with its own challenges and new, fresh things to help businesses with. But yeah, just give us an overview as to why would a service leaver do well? Which type of service leaver would do well? And what is it that you love about what you do?
So our clients are typically high-risk, high-regulatory organisations, companies that are being told, on the one hand, by a regulator that says, because of what you do, you need to have these things in place to protect your people, your Health and Safety at Work Act type issues. But it's also high regulatory on finance sector, for example. We all rely on the banking service to work. And if you don't get your payroll and it doesn't hit your bank account and so on, suddenly a banking service only needs to be down for a fraction of a second, and there are hundreds of thousands of transactions that don't get paid, etc. So that the breadth of what we mean when we say business resilience, you've got that side. But we've also done work with a local charity, the Edinburgh Dog and Cat Home. And people go, really? Well, is that high risk?
Yeah.
It's very high risk if you're the dog or the cat in that dog home that something happens. You imagine a fire in a
awful.
Yes, you do your best to rescue the dogs and the cats. Of course you do, just as you would do for people in a high-rise building. But I've now got 50 or 60 stressed animals, perhaps in a park, chained dog lead to a tree. What do we do with them now? What's your backup plan of who are you going to get the vets to check them over? Where are you going to put them? What volunteer network have you got to be able to take them in? So it sounds sort of really, a dog and cat home needs a resilience plan. Yes, it does, because they've got things that matter and that they're passionate about. Well, why wouldn't you want to protect that?
Yes.
And for a business, yes, you've got the banking sector and the oil and gas sector and the pharmaceuticals and the hospitalities, big hotels that seem to have a habit of burning down at the moment, or all of those issues. But you've also got the businesses like mine that is a sole founder that has put blood, sweat, tears, second mortgage into getting this thing off the ground. Well, surely you want to have a plan that protects that. That says, well, what is it that we do that generates our cash? Because every business needs cash. Well, we sell stuff to clients. Well, okay, so we need some clients. And what do they buy? They buy capability. So I read it on, I think it was a LinkedIn post from Ex-Forces, and they described it as the 3 C's of business continuity. It was easiest way to understand it. We need cash, we need clients, we need capabilities. And if you can protect those three areas, then you're more likely to survive. So when you say who is it that, what skill sets do you need? You need to be a people person, because you're going into someone's organization and you're asking them to share with you their details of what they do and what is absolutely critical. So you need to be engaging and credible and a good listener. You also need to be comfortable with detail, because you're writing someone's plan, and so it needs to work, and they need to be able to understand it. So you need to be able to write plain English, use graphics, all that sort of stuff to be able to put together a plan. Once you've written the plan, you then need to be able to train people in it. So ideally, you've got some form of training background, and again, I would guess 90% of the armed forces at some point in their life have done a training job, or whether that's in their own unit's training wing or a proper training establishment. And then you need to be able to validate it by running an exercise. Well, again, we've all written exercises, main events lists, and so on. So there is so much of that is common to people. Go, well, actually, I understand about risk. I understand about mitigations and so on. I understand about the importance of having a plan.
Yes.
And the importance of, when the worst day in your life happens, being able to implement that plan.
Yes.
So you need people that you trust and that they understand it. And so it fits quite comfortably with probably 50% of the armed forces.
Yeah, sounds that way for sure.
I think there are three types of resilience roles that one could fit into as a service leaver. You've got the perhaps obvious ones of the big organizations that have departments in-house that do what I do.
Yeah.
And that might be, as I say, within Scotland, yes, the financial sector, it's a big deal to be able to make sure that the banking sector, the financial sector, is resilient and it's not going to be knocked off by a cyber attack or whatever that might be. Similarly, the oil and gas industry and the distilling industry, it's all big business will have their in-house capability, and you can pitch yourself to do that. You just got to be credible, and they might want you to start in a junior role, almost as a staff learning role, but you can use your enhanced learning credits to go and do the Business Continuity Institute course and become certified in something. So just, as I said about CVs, you're just trying to raise yourself above the average, so it's worth a read. You've then got mid-sized organizations like mine. Some people rather quaintly called us a boutique consultancy. I wasn't sure whether I was selling dresses, but who knew? But I take their point. It's a niche, it's a specialism, and we've got approximately 20 of us in the business now, in different roles and different ways of working. And you could come and join an organization like us, or you take the bold hit and go, I know a bit about this. I'm going to join either set up as a sole trader, which has many benefits, because you can undercut me, let alone the Deloittes of this world, by saying, well, I'll do that for £400 a day rather than £800 a day.
Yes.
But the challenge with sole trader is that when you're delivering, you're not doing business development, you're not developing your brand, you're not developing your courses, so you can't earn money and do prospecting so when you're doing business development and you're writing a tender or you're writing a proposal, you're not earning any money. So it may sound lovely that I'm earning £400 a day. Wouldn't that be nice if you did that 5 days a week, every week?
You'd have me. I'd be out there as a sole trader.
But the reality is that anyone that is a sole trader or a small business, that if you hit 50% utilization, you're probably doing quite well, because the other 50% of the time is going to conferences, is meeting people, is talking about things like this. Today I'm not earning any money.
Nope.
Well, okay, as a business, it's fine, obviously. But if this is your sole income, and you can't say, well, across the team, we expect most people to be earning, but we can take hits. Different people will be attending courses, attending conferences, growing the business. If you're a one-person band, it's difficult to do both. And it just takes time. And so, yes, you may be passionate about it. You may be the best person in the world. But if no one knows you exist, then you're not going to earn any money.
Sure.
So it's a balance. But I think there are different things that, depending on your personality, you might like the comfort of a guaranteed income, relatively speaking, a guaranteed income of working for a big organisation, and you can then work your way up through that, and that's great, and it provides comfort of knowing that the mortgage is going to be paid, but I'm probably quite a small cog in a pretty big wheel.
Yeah.
Or you drop down a level to ours where I still adopt the mission command. I don't judge anyone. I expect them, you've got your marching orders, get on with it.
Yeah.
We didn't even used to have, yes, we had a number of days leave that people could take. We didn't have a leave register. I couldn't care less. I expect you to get out there and do your job. And if you can do that and take leave, great. But I'm not here to, you've only taken 22 days.
Yeah.
It's a complete waste of my time.
Yes.
If you're happy with what you're doing and you're doing a great job and you've hit all your targets, take leave. If you're not and you want to do a bit more, earn a bonus, well, don't take leave. But the team came to me and said, actually, we're not taking enough leave because we don't know how much leave we've got left. And you go, right, okay, fine. So we now have a leave tracker, not for my benefit, but for the team's benefit, that they are able to, at a glance, be able to do that and know what they're approved. So each organisation will be different, and each will attract a different type of people. We're very lucky at the moment that we probably get one or two people asking, do we have a vacancy every week?
Fantastic.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah.
And so something is right with what we're offering, and the way that we work. And I was in Ghana last week, working with a client in Ghana. So if you still have the wanderlust, we travel the world doing this. We don't just do it in Scotland. Most of Africa now we have worked in since we started. Americas, North, South, Europe. It is a great opportunity to meet people, different cultures, which is what most people in the armed forces join the army and see the world, and you end up going to maybe Germany if you're lucky. Well, perhaps you go a little bit further east nowadays than that. But in a resilience consultancy, you really can see the world, and some of it is still security challenging because that's where the money is to be made in the frontier locations that lots of people go, I'm not really sure about going to northern Iraq or southern Iraq or Kurdistan. Kurdistan is the northern Iraq example, or Nigeria. Some of these places that have got quite bad reputations. Yeah. But again, if you do your homework, you make sure that your travel risk management is correct. You've got the right support. I'm not suggesting, in the military, we always used to say, it's fine, Bob from Hereford will come and get us out of trouble if something bad happens. Well, we don't have Bob from Hereford anymore. We now rely on business organisations, but it's still the same principle. Yeah. You have a backup plan if something goes wrong, and then you get on with it. It's great.
Matthew, I have to say, one of the things the main thing actually that I've taken away from this conversation we've had, and you have had a wonderfully exciting career, be it your military career all the way through to what you're doing now at Inverroy. But the thing that I'm taking away from this is that no two stories, no two interviews that I have are ever the same, and no two resettlement and therefore subsequent civilian careers are ever the same. And we try to give so much advice at the Officers Association Scotland. Of course, we have our advice on best practices and things that if you do these things and go to our events and everything, your chances are going to be higher at success. But ultimately, there comes a moment when every service leaver just needs to take it by the horns and do things their own way and believe in themselves and network.
Of course, you want to give yourself the best possible chance of success by doing your homework and doing your research and developing a plan, because we all like a plan. And your family is reassured by you've got a plan and you're following the plan and you're listening to the best advice. Of course you do. But it has to feel right. It has to, that moment of when the alarm goes off in the morning and you go, right, what am I going to be doing today? Great, I'm going to be doing it. Because we only have one life. So we've got to get on and live it in a way that we feel we're adding value and we're excited about going to work. And I appreciate work means work. It doesn't mean play. So I'm not suggesting that it's an easy option. But if you are enthusiastic about what you're going to be doing, gosh, it makes a difference. And when you're turning up for an interview, I'm not suggesting that you're sort of running into the room going, look at me, but you should be excited about what the person is offering you and what the role is. And if you just sit there sort of slightly sort of monosyllabic and answer you, that doesn't infuse me as an employer that you're going to really get it and add value. And that be a good team player means that I am bought into this, I am committed, and we as a partnership, we as a team are going to do great things. Well, if you can find a job that allows you to be enthusiastic, because don't get me wrong, there are thousands and thousands of jobs that I would not be enthusiastic about. So that is a skill in itself of understanding what is out there, because when you've only been in the military, you have no idea. I think I suggested that at the start, that someone took me around Aberdeen and showed me the real Aberdeen.
The real Aberdeen, yeah.
I thought I knew Aberdeen, but I really didn't. And so what the service that you provide is through your networking opportunities, through the Officers Association, suddenly you see all these businesses and you go, well, I didn't realise that was even a thing, let alone that you were going to pay me to do that. And scales fall off people's eyes. But once you whittle that down to, right, this is the sort of role I want to be in, get out there and do your research, try and network, and just say, look, can you just tell me a little bit about what you do? Go to these free conferences. There are loads of them across the UK. There's free one in Glasgow, All Energy. It's free. Just go there. You see an empty stand, turn up to the empty stand. Forgive me, it looks as though you haven't got anyone here at the moment. Could you just tell me something about what you do? And it's all int gathering to shape it, the intelligent preparation of the battlefield, we used to call it. I don't know what it's now called. But the idea of gather your data so that when you do turn up, you are going to absolutely ace it. But it's your life. You only get one go at it. So find something that you love.
I love that. That's fantastic. This has been a wonderful conversation. And to be honest, I could have spoken to you for hours. And that was the feeling I had when I heard you speak at our Security, Risk and Resilience Insight event as well. There's so many things that you've raised that we have barely scratched the surface of. However, we are going to end here.
Okay.
And I like to end every episode with the exact same question. You have, as a sidebar, your branded From Combat Boots to Business Suits mug.
Thank you.
It is yours to keep. You are part of now a very small select club of people that have one of these. And I'm sure you're going to drink every single brew out of it for the rest of your life. But we are called From Combat Boots to Business Suits for a reason. This very much encapsulates the life and identity of a veteran, both sides of that identity. Which one of these two do you most identify with, combat boots or business suits?
Wow, that is a killer question, isn't it? I loved my time in the military. I joined at a fantastic time, able to get used to being a young officer, and then life got a bit busier in the 90s and early noughties, which was fantastic. That's what I joined to do. So if you'd have asked me not that long ago about business, the first 5 years in business are tough. And that idea of not getting paid very much, of long nights, travel, I might have said, actually, combat boots was good. But I am hugely proud of what we've achieved and what we've grown at Inverroy. The team we've got is fantastic, and we are reaching that point of, do you know what, this is now exciting. And so can I do both? Can I say I love my combat boots days, but actually I'm very happy in business suits?
Do you know what? I will absolutely let you have both. I think by the sounds of things, you have had both parts of these. Both of these have been very, very successful and fruitful.
Thank you for allowing me both. I must say, for Inverroy, it's an exciting period we're about to go into. And if anyone is listening and interested in podcasts, we have our own podcast called Being Crisis Prepared. It's on Spotify, it's on Apple and the likes. Sadly, we don't do videos like this, and perhaps the listener might think that's a good thing. But it's ideal for plugging in when you're walking the dog, going for a run, sat in the car. So if you've liked this version and you might like to listen to a bit more, we have some great people speaking. So, yeah.
Fantastic. I will also, wherever you are watching or listening to this podcast, I will leave a link to the Inverroy podcast, Being Crisis Prepared.
Being Crisis Prepared.
I will leave a link where you can find that if you would like to know more about what Matthew and his team does on a daily basis. And Matthew, thank you so much for giving us your time. I'm sure as a good friend of the Officers Association Scotland, we will have you back to speak at one of our events extremely soon.
I look forward to it. Thank you very much for having me on this occasion.
It's been a pleasure. And to all of you listening or watching at home, please be sure to like, subscribe, share to another service leaver, and I will see you at the next episode. Matthew, thank you.
Thank you.